Hey everybody, welcome to the Portsmouth Basketball Podcast. This is part 2 of an interview series. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, go back and check it out. But for those of you who are here at the right time, thank you so much for listening. Let's get into it.
So Dan, like, you know, you're at Rotting. Jeez,
Wow.
you're at Reading.
Yeah.
It's getting late. I'm getting tired. That's what's happening. So you're at Reading. So you then decide to take the amazing move to take your talents to Portsmouth.
He saw the light.
That is correct. After being at Reading for a couple of years, I was looking for, okay, what's next? I struggled to stay in one place for a long time. Came down to Portsmouth, took up a job at the university, both lecturing and with the university basketball team, and then somehow managed to get in contact with Mr. Rob Milner and asked if there's any basketball going on in the city, is there anything I can do to help? And then from there, I just ended up starting to go to some of their sessions, got in contact with Serge as well, who was here, and then it just started snowballing from there, really.
So the first, I guess, you know, experience with Portsmouth was the under-14 National League.
Yes.
And that was a successful season.
That was a very good season, taking into account that none of the boys had ever played National League basketball before. And most of the time, and I can say this from experience being on the other side, when there's a new team that's just joined the league, they usually take bad losses, to put it politely, every week. And the fact that we were able to finish 500, I think it was 7 wins, 7 losses, and we finished third or fourth. That was a great year, and half of our team were a year young as well. So there was a lot of good stuff and a lot of positive things to take away from that. It's super exciting to see that exact same group that are going to be playing under 16s this incoming year. I'm going to get down to as many of their games as possible.
You know, some of those players aren't too far away from looking at the men's.
How important is a connection within the team?
Define connection.
You've talked about a few teams now where a lot of people have played together and they have connected, or they're aware of each other, maybe of their skill sets,
Yes.
and them personally, obviously, as well. I know we've talked, I think it was Alex saying, you know, when you're playing with someone a season, you see them every day.
That's camaraderie he was talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the camaraderie that he was talking about. So it is a connection. It's more than just I'm a team. I guess it defines what a teammate is, really, isn't it? But
Yeah.
these are teammates that are progressing together, so they're on their same journey together.
Yeah.
How important is that to a successful team?
I think that is, me personally, I think that's one of the most important things, like outside of skill set. I think you can have a team that their skill level means that they should be a top 15 team, but if they've got high levels of cohesion and high levels of camaraderie, they could very well be a top 5 team. Because that's something I'm really big on. Like, for the setup that we have over here, there is going to be some players who play for the university team and the National League Portsmouth Force team. And for some of those guys, they're going to be seeing each other 6 days a week, sometimes twice in a day. And it's like, if they don't like each other, they're not going to want to be there. There's going to be negative vibes and all those bits and pieces. And for how demanding we are, for the amount of different things that they have to do and have to remember, it's a lot easier when it's less of, oh, I have to go to practice, or, oh, we have a game, but, oh, I'm going to chill with my boys at practice with coach. So that's why I try and be as relatable and relaxed with the guys as much as possible away from the court. So we might jump on a phone, or I might pick some of them up and drop them off to practice and whatnot, because I know how intense we can be on the court. And something that we're trying to really push a lot more this year is, can we help people? Well, can we make it a thing for people's birthdays, for different holidays and whatnot? Like, can we have some team bonding stuff for Christmas or end of year thing? Just something that makes it feel more of a family and more of a, yes, our connection is more than just we turn up and play basketball with each other. Because I think it's those connections and those relationships that you end up remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know what, it's similar with the Portsmouth Fury. It's a social team, more of a family oriented team.
Yep.
And it's why people who have played for the Fury look back at that team and, you know, are like seriously saying Fury for life kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's bigger than the game.
Yeah, and anyone who has played for the Fury, you know, understands that part of the I know it sounds corny, but understands that part of the family. So it's the same thing, being instilled in the men's national league. I mean, there's definitely levels of respect, I'd say, between players and coach. You guys get along, we can see that.
Yeah.
And you know, they definitely respect and listen to your views and stuff. You know, we watch that every home game. We see that. That's got to feel good.
No, definitely. I think something, once again, I picked up from Reading, especially with Alan Keane, he does a lot of stuff around this, is one thing that I try to do is be as open and honest with the guys as possible and try and create a safe space where, although, yes, whether we like it or not, including myself, I'm the final decision maker because I'm the head coach. I want to hear other people's points of views. I want to hear other people's opinions. I want feedback on, do you like the warm-up? Is there anything you want to change? You feel like you're prepared and ready to go at the beginning of games? This is our sets that we're running. How do you think they're working? Is there any slight little tweaks or wrinkles you want to throw in there? Is there, from your previous experiences, do you have a favourite baseline out of bounds play that you think could work really well for us? I want a lot of that feedback, because at the end of the day, I have one point of view and my experiences, but those guys are actually on the court, and sometimes we'll be playing a game and the guys are coming over to me to be like, yo coach, I'm seeing this and this, just to let you know, keep an eye on it. And in my mind, I didn't even realize that was happening because I'm thinking about another 25 other things. And if he's coming over to tell me that, then that means I should hyper focus on that and address that here and now, rather than me thinking that, oh, if I call a timeout, they're going to go into a zone, so I need to drop a different set, that kind of thing.
You know what, that's really interesting, and I just picked up on a theme really throughout Dan's career from what I'm seeing here on paper. It's that analysation and taking all that information in and just processing it.
How do you record it all? Are you a notepad man? Are you just keep it upstairs? Or just curious how, because, you know, I spent a couple of decades in sales and used to be called a knowledge broker, because that's what you are. You're not selling something, you're a knowledge broker. You're imparting your knowledge on someone, and that's what you're doing. That's what you are. You are sponging everything up and taking all this information in. But is it just going in your head? Do you put it down? Do you have spreadsheets? How do you, what's your workflow like? It's like in a scenario like this, for example, because you're focusing on all these other things, and then you've got to kind of sideline part of that project because there's something very specific you need to do.
That's really interesting, because I try to I'll have, like, if I go and check my house, I've probably got 2 or 3 different notebooks that I'll say, yeah, I'm going to write all of my notes in this. And then there's another one that's the hand, okay, so I'm going to write it in this. Or I'll have spreadsheets on Google Drive and I'll write it in that. But then, I need to start up another spreadsheet. But I think the most consistent one is we have a coaches group chat, and all of my thought processes go into that. So KP and Jesse probably get 5-minute long voice notes from me after every practice and after every game.
Yeah, it's voice notes. He always says voice notes.
Yeah. It's because my train of thought is not linear, and I just need to, like, speak freely. But then also there's a lot of the stuff that just stays in my head because I don't know what it is. I can remember key things at that point in time when I need them. Because there might be another point where someone's talking to me about Simon's jump shot, and it's like, I'm not really caring for Simon's jumper right now. But then there might be another point where, okay, Simon's jumper, this is the slight tweak that he needs, but he's already been making that tweak, which is now making him a better 3-point shooter. So that was probably not the best example, but yeah, there's some stuff that I can keep in my head. There's other stuff that I throw in those voice notes, and there's other more X's and O's stuff that I will write down or keep on a spreadsheet somewhere.
And that feedback is invaluable to the players. So when we had Alex on here, he was talking about, it made us laugh, it was called the Alex Grant turnover sheet. And, you know, he was, even though you're highlighting areas of his game where he can improve and negative, you know, because of that relationship you got with him, he's listening to that and trying to turn that negative into a positive, which is great. It just made us laugh because we just envisioned him running into a part of the court and just be like, this is where I turn it over.
There's just suddenly this like little ring fence in his mind, like, oh no, I'm here.
But that's amazing because you've done something and he's visualizing, hang on, turnovers are my problem. I'm now in this area. This is when I really need to switch on. The other thing that I really liked, which I've had a few players comment on that you do, is, you know, it's one of the notes I put here, is keep it simple. So one of the things that some of the players have said to me is, you say, I want you to focus on defending number 12 today, or I want you to focus on just running and pushing that ball hard. You know, I want you to focus on kicking it out. Whatever that is, it's just really simple. And as players, that's easy to process because you're going into the game going, 12, I'm stopping him. There's no way he's scoring. That's my job. That's
that reminded you of someone, didn't it? Mickey.
Yeah, Mickey Byrne. Yeah, Mickey Byrne. Like, you know, again, all that experience with Solent Stars, Portsmouth, England, Great Britain as well. You know, he always kept it simple.
Like one sentence.
Yeah.
What are you doing there? Change that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally was very defensive. So for me, all his advice was stop him. But yeah, when some of the players said that, you keeping it simple really reminded Mick. There's a lot of parallels between you and Mick.
Yes, basically. A big thing for us this year as well is the word efficiency, because when I first started coaching, I used to give players 3, 4, 5 different things to think about, and they step on the court, they don't know a single one of them, and then you get annoyed. But it was another coach, I can't remember who, but they had to point out to me that, Daniel, they have to worry about being on the court, executing things, guarding somebody else, having you or the crowd shouting at them, having their teammates saying other stuff to them. If you're also adding 4 or 5 points for them to think about, they're not going to remember it. So from then I learned, and something I'm going to try and really push on this year, is never touch on more than 3 things. Like, never touch on more than 3 things.
Literally, that's what Mick used to say to me.
Because even those 3
pick
things...
3 points and that's it. Yeah.
Even those 3 things can be 1 or 2 too many. Because it's better for me to tell you guys, okay, these are the 1 thing to focus on offense, 1 thing to focus on defense, for us to get those ticked off, and now you don't have to think about it to do it before I then bring in another one. So that's why it's very much... I feel bad because I was learning these of coaches, but I can't remember who specifically. But that's why I'm very much now, okay, think about what are the most prominent, most important things that you need to fix right now. Fix those 1 or 2 things. Close your eyes to the others. Make sure those things are fixed before we then move on to the next one.
And some of it is usually quite simple. Just like saying a phrase like, guys, where are the points coming from? And they'll be like, inside. Do something about that. Some of it's quite simple.
Yeah.
But Mick, I remember when I was asking him to help me with the coaching, and he said, never say more than 3 things because you lose the players because they're thinking too much. But that's really interesting. So obviously you've got your experience National League with the under 14, then you take the huge step to take over as head coach. And Portsmouth hadn't seen basketball for a decade, and then you take over, and we see this Portsmouth Force team. I mean, that's special.
It was really nice conceptually when it was okay. Yeah, we really want to start a men's team in partnership with the university and with the local community. Really get back into entering men's National League. I was like, yes, this is really fun. This is really exciting. Who's going to head coach it? And then Rob was very much like, so we're thinking you, but if someone else comes up, we can find them. And I won't even lie. Throughout the whole summer, I was like, I hope someone more experienced just walks in through the door and is like, okay,
really?
Yeah, genuinely. I was like, okay, and then they got a coach team, and then because I still love learning, and I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna learn off of them, and then copy anything that they do in learn from what they do and implement it within the university team. But then no one walked through the door, because you've got to remember, in my coaching career, I'd only coached under 14s for a year and under 18s for 2 years. So it was like, to then, yes, I'd been doing some uni stuff, but to then take over a senior men's national league side, Division 3 or not, it was like a wow. Like, okay, Daniel, this is real basketball, because you're coaching people who are older than you. Some people might have been playing longer than you. Some people might be more experienced than you, but they're still going to be looking at you to be like, okay, so what are we going to do? What's going to happen next?
Stops with you, yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, like this is really happening. So it took me some time. I spoke to a couple of different coaches, and it was like, okay, this is really happening, but just do what you do and don't try and make yourself someone else. Because I know a lot of coaches go through the experience of, oh yes, I was learning from so and so, and when I started coaching, I was just trying to copy them.
Yeah.
But I knew that's not me, especially because at that point I was 25. Yes, 25. Yes, 25. And it's like, Daniel, some of these guys are your age, older than you, a couple years younger than you, trying to go in as I'm the be all end all, the most knowledgeable person around, isn't your thing anyway. So I tried to ask as many people, get as many people on board to help me out. And then, as you would have it, as God would have it, we had a very successful year and just missed out on the playoffs in our first year.
So just on that, how did you feel the season went? Like, what was your positives and your negatives?
Positives from the year was going 13-5, and that the home crowd only saw us lose twice, which is a huge positive. Positive is people like Zion, who got exposed to playing senior level basketball. Positives is finding the opportunity for some of our university level players to also go and play at that high level. And the biggest positive is the fact that Portsmouth now had another senior men's national league team that could bring the community together. I'd say overall, those are like some of the best positives. But now the negative side of it was there were still points where I didn't feel like I was completely ready. Hindsight's 2020, but knowing that slight tweaks in my coaching or in my experience would have got us into the playoffs. Also identifying the fact that our style of play helped us at points, helped Simon almost get an MVP, but at other points was detrimental, because I think everyone could agree that there were points where we were too reliant on one or two players, and if those one or two players were hurt, couldn't make the game, or weren't having the best game there, then everyone else was kind of like, okay, so what do we do now? What do we do next? I didn't fully prepare everyone to be able to play their role to the best of their capabilities, which is at the top of my list this upcoming year. That there's going to be a top scorer, but for everyone to feel as valued and as confident in their own basketball skills to be successful and be impactful on the team. We're not having any people who are just there for the ride.
Yeah. And it is a challenge when one of your top scorers gets injured and stuff like that, but not to do yourself too much of a disservice, you did go through that this year, didn't you? So when we lost Simon one game, I think you went to a game with quite short, but you walked away with a win.
Yes, we did. That was Exeter away. At that point, they were top of the league, and we went with like 6 guys.
And some people in the team, I think it might have been Alex Grant, said that was one of his favourite games of the season.
Yeah, because at that point, everyone knew that, okay, there's 6-7 of us. Everyone has to I think it was like 7-8 of us. Everyone has to get on the court. Everyone has to be impactful. So people were exponentially great teammates, and everyone had the next play mentality. I mean, really, that was the one game that was the biggest game where we really pulled together, and we were able to beat them at their home floor where they hadn't lost yet and they were top of the league. So being able to pull that off made me think that actually Like we might be onto something.
Yeah, and I mean, just talking about the university side of things, I mean, there's a few aspects to that. I think the support we've had from Portsmouth University has been amazing. I think, the actual Ravelin Sports Centre, amazing, great venue, great floor. I think the staff are absolutely amazing as well, and it feels like the Portsmouth basketball community and Portsmouth University and the staff have just kind of just like gelled, and we've just created this hopefully a future juggernaut, who knows. But the one but I have is obviously we're trying to set those players to come into the team from under 14s all the way down. Do you ever think we might be too reliant on university players? Because we were quite heavy this year. Could that ever be a sting in our tail?
I think if you find a lot of teams in like similar situations as us, there are connections and partnerships with universities or with colleges. So you do get a bit of a carousel of players where you will get some players for 1-2 years and then they're moving on because they're graduating and whatnot. But I think that's why our junior setup is super crucial, because ideally what we would love to happen is we have some older guys who have been around Portsmouth, who have played, who want to come back and like continue playing and continue giving back. We then want to have a group of guys from the university.
He's not asking you, Paul. He's not asking you. I could just see you there sat up going, oh yeah.
Hey,
older players, yeah, I'll put a suit on.
Dan, I'm telling you now, if you end up with 6 players, you tell me. I will warm that bench out. I have no problem with that.
I'll give you a shout, don't worry.
He'll phone me up and go, Dan, give me 5 minutes and I'll be registered as National League.
I'll give you a shout.
I'm ready.
And then have a couple of uni guys, but then what we want is, like, my dream is that 1 year we've got an under 18 kid who is a Portsmouth bred and born, but is in the starting lineup for our Division 3 men's team. Because what we want is just the whole pathway to continue churning out really high level kids that are going off to do amazing things and playing at seniors. Like we currently have 2 or 3 of the under 18 kids who are practicing with us over the summer. And
wow.
Yeah, and hopefully as the year goes on, 1 or 2 of them might be able to kit up, and maybe 1 of them might be able to step onto the court.
Wow.
So
is that an exclusive, Dan?
That's another exclusive.
It was
he's
borderline.
Dropping him. He's kept him in his pocket. And
that was a potential
kept him in his
borderline
pocket.
I don't know
exclusive.
But if you some people listening may not appreciate, may look at the NBA, and once you've got to the NBA, players are moving and they're getting bought, purchases, etc. Like that. In the BBL, in the British leagues, is it very much it's reliant on people feeding through the teams in these youth structures? Is that how a lot of the teams work in, say, Division 3, Division 2? At what point does it change where you might get players coming in?
So, to be completely honest with you, people start getting specific imports from Division 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like you can find... So, at the Division 2 level, even at the Division 1 level, you might find a team that is specifically connected with an academy, like an EABL academy, or specifically connected with a university team. However, the rules allow you to bring in 1 or 2 imports, so non-UK nationals or non-Europeans, to come and pay and play.
Luca, if you're listening, just saying there's a ticket there.
So this season, our player was Eric Dew, right?
Yes, this season just gone, it was Eric.
Did you know a few months back, Eric, how many points did he score? 36 points in the finals for the Portsmouth Fury. Got MVP.
That does not surprise me.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
He was on fire.
Eric is one of those guys that if he gets going, he is a problem. Big problem.
Yeah, he's just quick. He's really quick. You could just see he is just been training all year round, and that final was just like pinnacle. I mean, listening to some of the other players, they were just like, I could hear them coaching. I could hear them going, just can't guard him. what am I supposed to do? Like, it's like, that's what you want to hear as a coach, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, are there any potential players coming in this year that we're not aware of? And we got Alex Grant coming back, which is great news.
Sign the contract on the show.
Yeah. Well, he didn't need to sign the contract, so we don't need to pay him. I mean, I still got the contract here. We don't need to pay him the 2.9 million per year mark.
Yeah, so we do have Alex back, which we didn't expect to, but we are happy to have him back. Definitely, very much so. He's definitely going to be able to help us. And apart from that, we have Ollie Blake, who's back.
Ollie's back.
Yeah,
Nice.
Ollie Blake, our captain's back. Simon's back. Patrick's back. Sam is back. So those are the guys who I can definitely confirm who are back. But then we're also going to have a couple of new faces, which will be interesting and exciting. A couple of local lads, which is my favourite part. But I don't want to say too much because a lot can still happen between now and the beginning of the season. But I feel like our group is almost set in stone and we're ready to go.
Are there any current Portsmouth guys that we might know?
So you may know this guy called
Harry?
Yes,
Harry Bates.
Harry Bates.
We know Harry Bates very well.
We do.
He's played for the Portsmouth Fury for the last 10 years.
Wow. Wow.
And I've been saying to him for 10 years, Harry, you should be playing National League, mate. When you started last year, I was like, Harry, you should be going to the trial. I think he did turn up to the trials, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
I'm sure he did, but I don't know what happened. But this year when it came around, he was talking about, Harry, you're going to those trials. Like, you know, and I'm saying this as an older player, that window that you have to play National League basketball in your lifespan, it feels quite short.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you decide not to play National League for a season, or in some people's cases 5-10 years, you know, you're going to look back. I'm telling you, you're going to look back and regret it. I know Andy Rowland said a similar thing. He left the game for a bit and he looked around and regret it. I would massively regret it. Yeah, it was great to see or hear Harry potentially doing that. Okay, so we might see Harry this year.
You will.
Let's get him on the show.
Yeah, we got to.
100%.
Yeah.
New blood. Get him in.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
that
Portsmouth Fury legend on the Portsmouth
segment
Force.
went nicely to the question I had about off-season.
Okay.
So you're talking about players coming back and then new players coming in. What's your expectation as a coach for the off-season from players?
For everyone to become a better basketball player. Now that's really open, but I know for some guys their thing is, okay, I want to come back a better shooter. Okay, that's cool, you do that. Some guys want to come back more athletic. Okay, that's cool, you do that. Some guys want to come back smarter, like with a high level of IQ, a better understanding of certain situations that they're going to find themselves. Okay, that's fine, you do that. But they have to come back better. The same way how I expect myself to be able to come back into a new season with these different things of how I'm going to be a better coach. I have the exact same expectations of them, and I told them that.
And do they lean on your analytics, for example, to say, can you guide me on where you think I could shape my game, for example?
Some of them do. Some of them already have their own plans of they know what they need to get better at.
Yep.
But they know I'm always there, available for a call. Something that I wasn't able to do this year, but I did last year, and it should be a thing moving forward, is that we have end of year like reviews. I call them reviews, but it's just we jump on the phone or we like try and meet up somewhere and we just sit down to talk about the year.
Yeah.
We talk about, okay, how did things go? What did you like? What didn't you like? That's when the players know they've got free reign to tell me anything and anything they want, because it's not going to affect their court time on Saturday.
It's good though. You know what? I really want to know what Alex Grant's turnover sheet looked like at the end of the season.
Yeah, he said, I've got it on me. I've still got it here. It's on my phone. Wow.
Actually, you know what he did say? He that information you gave him.
Yeah.
I really respected him for saying this. I thought, wow, what motivation. He took a screenshot, and that was his wallpaper on his phone. So every time he looked on the wall on his wallpaper, he saw Alex's turnover sheet, and that was his focus for just every time he turned his phone on.
Well, it works because his numbers went down.
Yeah.
His numbers went down.
Is that ultimately the coach's main focus of a job, is to get the maximum out of each player and to know how to get the maximum out of each player?
So I would say yes.
I'm leaning on a Phil Jackson kind of philosophy here, where it's like, what MJ's MJ, that's Rodman, leave him to do his thing.
Yeah.
You know.
I would definitely say, so in my mind, I have my coaching role because of the level I'm at in two minds is, yes, when we're playing, I need to best figure out how to get the most out of each individual single player within the collective. But then also is, how can I make this player the best version of themselves and also advertise them to look the best? Because I know with some of these guys that some of these guys are happy to play Division 3 and that's where they want to be. If they get bumped up to Division 2, that's nice and great. But I also know that we have some guys who are striving and have aspirations to play at the highest level, and for them it is to be the best version of themselves, to learn the skills that they need to be able to play at that next level. So I'm like, okay, how can I help them with that? But then also I'm thinking, how can I get Simon, Ollie, Alex, Harry all onto the court at the same time, understanding that Simon is very bang, 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 aggressive. Ollie's a little bit slower, a little bit more composed. Alex wants to play a slow game back to the basket, but all of them are very good basketball players. And how do I get the most out of all of them? So it's basically trying to fit together a jigsaw puzzle without losing too much from people.
I think when you're talking about most improved as well, I think you got to bring up Alan Vitag.
Yes.
I saw him first play, I want to say maybe a year or 2 years before the National League kicked off. And, he was okay. But I just seen him come back this summer and maybe towards the end of last season as well. And it was like, wow, the steps that guy's taken is significant. And you know what? It's a shame. My understanding is he's leaving at Christmas, which is a shame because, he is just, whatever you're doing, he's taking that on board and doing. Yeah.
Alan and Eric are the two players, the most out of everyone, that really made me think that, okay, and Ollie a little bit, I need to get the most out of these players. Because the last two games Alan played for us, I think he had like 19 and 14 or something like that in those two different games. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, wow, did you see Alan? And in the back of my head, I was like, that's just what Alan does. Alan can do that. But I'll put it on myself, I didn't put him in the environment where he was able to do that or something close to that on a consistent basis. It was very much I'm just going to pass the ball to Simon or Alex and just play defense. Whereas Alan is a great scorer and a great athlete and a great basketball player in his own right. And Eric.
Yeah, and I think we saw definitely towards the end of last season, there were a couple of quarters, and I hope you don't mind me saying it the way I'm going to say it, but it felt like Alan just went, right, team, get on my back. You're struggling, get on my back. I'll carry you for this quarter. Yep. And there was a couple of games where we were like,
it was like Alan, NBA Jam, where he just lit on fire and he was off. That was it.
And it was like, wow, if he didn't do that, that could have been a tough game. You just absolutely carried the team for like a quarter or a half. But yeah,
that's what being a team is, though, isn't it? Sometimes it's just everyone gives 100% where they can, but sometimes it's like, today it's just another day.
And I think that's something I'm going to try and drive home a lot, that there will be certain days where Paul might go off for a 40-point game.
Hold on, he's bringing you in the game again. Look at his face.
Paul might go off for a 40-point game, and that's what we need at that point in time.
He ain't never going on a 40-point game.
Mark, you are forgetting I'm the highest scorer for the Portsmouth Fury.
You didn't get a 40-point game on NBA Jam. I got a
50-point game once against the Isle of Wight. What are you talking about?
And
what are you talking about?
And then the next week, we might actually need Paul to focus on guarding the other team's best player,
Yep.
and then Mark goes off for 25.
There we go.
And then I get like 5 steals because my focus is just
Listen,
to get Mark open.
I'm gonna set your expectations real low now. Like 25, like take like 20 off that, maybe,
5.
and then maybe not the 5 either.
Oh, you guys are funny.
So Dan, look, you know, you've been coaching now with the Portsmouth University.
Yeah.
You've won Bucks tournament twice.
Yeah.
You got, I believe, Bucks Coach of the Year. Is that right?
The university coach of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You then come
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you, thank you.
massive that is. You've then got the Portsmouth Force Division 3 National League. You've just received the award for Division 3 Southwest Coach of the Year.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And, you know, you're now working with the under-16 Welsh national team.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So, like I said, the basketball community is actually very small. And if you do a good job with one person, they're not going to forget that. So actually, the analyst who invited me to work with the GB senior men's team, he was head coaching the Wales national team. There was under 16 boys national team, under 16s and under 17s. So he had an assistant coach who was no longer available, and he just gave me a shout of, Daniel, I'm currently working with this team. We've got these tournaments coming up, and if you're available and if you're free, I'd love for you to be part of the coaching staff. And immediately I was like, of course, yes. To work with you again is a plus. To work within a national team setup is a plus. To work with different set of kids, to be exposed to them, to understand and learn new things from them is also a plus. So I was all over it.
If you could work with any coach in history for any season, who would it be?
Wow.
Wow, what a question.
Well, he loves learning.
What, alive or dead?
Any coach on any particular season as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hang on, at the end of the season, if it's NBA, does Dan get a ring if it's a championship season as well?
It doesn't matter.
Wow.
You don't necessarily have to pick the ones that win.
I mean, whilst Dan's thinking about that, who would you go for, Mark?
Learning from a coach, I don't know. I mean, you got to give Phil his knocks, but there's a part of me that wants to say Pat Riley.
Yeah, I mean, experience, like Miami, Lakers.
I like the way there's been an element of, although there's control, he's given some freedom to some of the players to be who they want to be.
Yeah.
Phil does the same, but in a slightly different sort of framework. It seems that Miami teams are a lot looser in some respect, whereas Phil very much had a strategy and very much had a method to things. I mean, they're different eras as well. I think Pat's carried it on. I don't know if Phil's mentality would work in the game now, whereas I think, although Pat's now, I think, separate, and it's Sposer, who is, I believe, number 3 in all-time playoff wins as a coach.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's a great coach. Same sort of thing, very free.
I think I'd have to say Chuck Daly.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I
Wow.
don't know. I just love the Pistons bad boys. That's an era in a team that I think that is, just feels like I'm connected to that.
Also, he goes in there and says, right, basically just Bill, go over there and beat them up. Everyone else just clear out, let Isaiah do
I
his
mean,
thing.
don't forget he was teaching. He had Isaiah, Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman, Mark Aguirre.
John Spider Sally.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have any chumps there. 2 National League teams. They beat the Celtics. They beat the Lakers, and they were trying to beat the Lakers and the Celtics when they were great teams. The Larry Bird and Magic Johnson days.
They were the third wheel in that Celtics and Lakers scenario. weren't
They were the team that broke the Celtics finally, then broke the Lakers.
So who's the coach, Dan?
I think it was Phil Jackson, but I want to go for the
Scotty!
I want to go for the Bulls. I believe it was the 94-95 season. So the year where MJ came back halfway through the year.
At the very end,
Yeah.
That's
Because-
the one there they lost to the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it would be interesting to see that, okay, MJ's gone, Scottie Pippen is like your team kind of thing now, and how Phil would have maneuvered that, and then with MJ coming back, what that dynamic would have been like and how he dealt with it. I think that would have been really interesting to see how to manage people where someone was, stay with me, someone was the number 2 and then they got upgraded to the number 1, and now all of a sudden they get knocked back down to the number 2. I would have found that interesting.
And that is 94, 95. So that is pre-Rodman, I believe.
No, like at the end of this year that Dan's talking about, that's when you have the meeting with Phil Jackson, Jordan and Pippen.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
and
saying.
Rodman. Yeah.
Rodman hasn't joined yet.
But you know what? It's really
Rodman
interesting.
wasn't there at that point, so that was that they hadn't done the switch around. I think Kerr wasn't there either, and
There was a transition period.
Luke Longley might have been there.
Might have been there.
But you know what I think is really interesting is out of those 8 years, or I guess those championship years, Dan doesn't pick the championship
That's
year.
exactly where I was going.
He goes for
It's
the
like of
year
all the people,
where
that's the one where they'd had the 3 years, then they had a bit of a clear out.
he goes for the experience. That's
Horace Grant wasn't there.
Yeah, he'd already gone to Orlando.
Yeah.
He
That's
was-
what I mean. The clear out, the championship done.
Don't
now.
forget, he was all on Orlando, and he
Mhm.
was the one that they lifted up to beat the Bulls, and Jordan was just like, take a mental picture of that. I'll be back next year.
Wow, a non-ring year
Yeah.
with Phil.
So, I mean, Dan, like, there's just so much experience and that you've got throughout your career here. But one of the things I wanted to bring up, and it's one of the things that I loved about the National League setup, more specifically you and some of the fan favourite players, was there was a National League under 12 and under 14 award ceremony. Dan turned up, Simon Onyepeku turned up, Alex Grant turned up, KP turned up. These kids are watching these guys perform every home game. Now all of a sudden they're getting their awards. Their idols are giving them their awards. And you know what? I looked at that and I just thought, that is really good. That's really admirable, that is, because it's instilling that respect, that family, that, I'm not big to not come down here and do it. And one of the things I wanted to do when you were on the podcast was highlight that, because I wasn't the only one who just thought, you know what, that's great to see that. It just brings in that, I guess, camaraderie or family unit for Portsmouth basketball as a whole.
I think it's great for everyone to feel like we are a whole club. I think it's very easy for people to think that, okay, yeah, so there's all the juniors and then there's a senior men's team that's there by themselves, separate to everyone. Like, we are a whole club from top to bottom. That's why it's going to be great with everyone wearing the same kit. It's going to be great when we have some of our under 18s on the men's bench. It's going to be great when some of the kids might be playing or on the bench for the age group above. But I also can't take all the credit for it, because the other thing is we just have really good people on our men's team. Simon, Alex especially, they're just very good people. So having them around is a huge plus.
We've been talking
quietly,
for a
please.
long time. I just noticed, Mark, I've only said this once in 8 episodes, but I'm going to say it again. This is our longest podcast now.
He's an interesting character.
But
We haven't even got to the question section yet.
we haven't even got to the questions.
No, not yet.
But Dan,
Strap in.
with all that you've told us, what is to come, not from a Portsmouth perspective. I know with Portsmouth, we're just gradually building up, even just from, the entertainment side of things, we're doing a little thing. I mean, this podcast itself, I think there are probably very few teams in the country that have their own podcast. But, what's to come from you? What are your future goals? Is NBA going to Europe? Where do you want to go in your basketball career?
my basketball career might be slightly different to some other coaches, where some other coaches might say they want to go to America.
Dan is dying. He's been talking for 2 hours now, and his throat is dying.
He was almost going to say that he was going to leave the Force, but he just couldn't do it. That's what it is. See, the universe is telling him, no, you're
Mark,
stuck here now. That's it.
We've got 100% success record with these contracts.
These contracts are great. We'll have to write another one up for Dan. Lifetime membership. Done.
Okay, I think I'm alright. I might have another coughing fit, just an FYI. But my plan is not to leave anytime soon. I see it as I've been part of growth and development of this Portsmouth Force baby. So, to be honest with you, I can't see myself leaving anywhere, at least until that under 14 group that I had have made their way through 2 years at 16s, 2 years at 18s, and at least one of them is playing for the men's team. Because I'm very much on how can we develop basketball in this country altogether, and how can we make more opportunities, more experiences for all kids in all different areas, and how can we begin to challenge your France, your Germany, your Spain on the European stage.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke offline about why not basketball in the UK is just not competitive when it comes to European basketball. And, you know, one of the things that you mentioned was how the academies and the feeding of the teams at youth going right through was so critical. Do other countries do it a better way, or is it just that we need more people, do you think?
I think always having more people is great. Also having better people is great. When I say better people, I'm not saying that I'm the best coach in the world. I'm so far from that. But I'm saying having more experience and high level coaches coaching our younger players. Because if you notice, all of the best coaches usually are coaching the senior men's team, senior women's team, under 18s here, under 18s there. We don't have the best coaches in the country coaching at under 12s, coaching at under 10s. When you could argue that age group is the most important. Because if they have the right foundations, the right fundamentals, then by the time they get to that under 18 level, you actually don't have to do that much.
So, I mean, you touching on that, when you say high school and college basketball in the States, for example, those coaching positions are highly prized, aren't they? They're really, really, very, very famous players often cite their high school coach as well as their college coach.
Yeah.
And they're right up there with the NBA coaches.
Yeah.
For not only for the value to the colleges themselves, for obviously the feeders and the etc. So do you think that's where we need to look at it in terms of the UK to bring some, I won't say bigger talent, but I'm just I was looking earlier just while you guys were talking about what NBA players, just NBA players the UK's produced over the last decade or two. Not that many.
It's a short list. I think we have to find the best way for us, because America, they have their thing where high school basketball and college basketball is seen to be so important. Like, there's so much hype in that. That is such a huge deal. The AAU is such a huge deal. You then get European clubs where I'm so sorry.
Mark, I just want to just focus. Dan's dying by coughing. I would say that the British game is improving. I mean, an example I would give to that would be the 3-on-3 tournament recently, where Great Britain won the tournament, and that's men's international 3-on-3 tournament. I mean, I know it's a different game, but that just says, you're still going up against all those big teams.
I mean, I know, sort of sidetracking a bit, but I was pretty disappointed with the NBA. And obviously, Adam Silver's listening to this right now. Adam, I'm disappointed in you, because they moved the NBA Europe game from here to France. And I understand why they did it. And there's a big basketball community in France. And so, I get that. But at the same time, I think that did hurt basketball in the UK from losing that that NBA game and having that exhibition.
I know that used to be a big game that a lot of people used to go to.
Yeah, we went up.
Yeah, we saw the Celtics play. Who did they play?
Oh, I don't remember. I remember Lewis Hamilton rocked himself in and sat down for a while, didn't he?
But we saw the Celtics championship winning team, so that's got to be 2008, 2009?
Yep.
Something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what? The only thing I do think, and again, it has very much influenced our stuff that we've been doing in the Force games, and I don't know how to sugarcoat this anyway, but I do think sometimes the crowd can be a little bit boring in England. Like when we went to that game in 2002, it was like the crowd didn't know how to cheer.
Yeah, and I mean, Dan, you touched on that earlier when you said sort of with the players, they weren't sort of sure how to respond to putting an atmosphere in, and it was exactly the same with some of the cues that you put on musically, getting people to clap their hands and so forth.
There's a learning curve, wasn't there?
There is a learning curve because people need to be educated, like this is what you do. But if you go to an NBA game, it's an experience. The game is there, but there's everything going on, and there's a lot of people there. Now, I went to a WNBA game when I was in Minnesota, and that was different because you're in the same place that you're playing the Timberwolves, but the crowd was smaller and the crowd were closer. So it was a different noise. They played the noises a different way, and it just felt different somehow. And you just wonder, so if I went to a Timberwolves game after that, which unfortunately I didn't at the time, I would love to have seen that dynamic, a bit of the difference, because they definitely played things a different way because there just wasn't as many people going to see that game, which, you know, more for them because the tickets were pretty good. And it was a good game. And I got to see Seattle play because they still have a women's team. Sold the men's team, but they kept the women's team. Figure that one out.
That's nice. You saw Sue Bird play.
I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all.
So Dan, next season, coming up to next season, you know, you got a couple of friendlies coming up, and I think that ends with this big home game that we're looking forward to, where it's the Portsmouth Force at home to the Kestrels. And you know what? It's got a little bit more meaningful significance, definitely for a lot of us, because of the Mickey Byrne Memorial that is going alongside that, and that's hopefully going to be an annual thing. You know, what are your thoughts going into that game? Because very much from a fan perspective, this isn't a friendly. This is a game. You know, people could turn up. We want to win this one.
He's running on the court if you win.
But you know, what's your thoughts going into that game? And then, you know what, a week later you got a cup game away, and then bam, season starts.
So we are very much using that friendly game, well, the game against Solent, as our last preparation of, okay, this is where we're really basically treating it like a normal league game, where we're going to coach it the same, we're going to have rotations the same kind of sets and whatnot that we're going to be looking at. So that's like, for us, the season starts on that day, and then we're looking to just kick on from then. So we're allowing for a lot of learning, a lot of progressing from now until that 16th of September. But from that day on, it's go time, and we are really getting after it, because we all know we have one goal, a tough goal, but we have one goal for the end of this year, and that's to be talking about how we're going to prepare for Division 2 next year.
Yeah, and you know, look, let's face it, the Kestrels team that are turning up, they're a Division 1 team. They were Division 1 going into Division 2, so that is a really good test of where your team is, where the bar is there.
How do you prepare for that as a coach, knowing the team that you're playing is a tier higher, maybe 2?
But does that make all the pressure on the Kestrels?
100%.
There is no pressure on if the Portsmouth Force win, that's a potential upset. You're going against a Div 1/Div 2 team. If the Kestrels win, okay, well, that's, I guess, expected, isn't it?
Wow.
So I just jumped in there, Dan.
It's fine.
I don't think you should expect anything. I think it's a shakedown. Everyone's doing a shakedown.
I think with the way basketball is set up in this country, at least D1, D2, D3, everyone gets pretty new teams each year. So although you would anticipate that, oh yeah, Solent are probably going to win, but like hopefully Portsmouth give them a good fight, they're also going to be ironing out some wrinkles. They're going to have some new players who haven't played together before. I don't personally know what their coaching situation is going to be like, but there might be a new coach in the building as well. So they're going to be trying to figure that out. And I'm pretty sure both teams are going to be, in their minds, it's going to be, let's just try and be the best version of ourselves. Especially in the first half, we're going to be the best version of ourselves. We're going to do all of our stuff. We're going to try and make sure that we remember our offenses, our defenses, our sets, our out of bounds, be on top of all of that. And then following that at halftime, then we can start thinking of, okay, what's the game set up like? What's the situation like? Is it ready for us to now start trying to make adjustments towards them? Or is that something that we just continue riding out what we're doing and be the best version of ourselves? That'll be part of the conversation that myself, Jesse and KP will have at halftime, of evaluating what the game is, evaluating where we are. Are we doing things that we're happy with? If we're not, then we're going to lock in on those. If we are, and it's a pretty close game, then okay, this is great reps for us as coaches to practice coaching in a close game. So that's how we probably look at it.
And that game, for anyone listening, is on the 16th of September at Ravelin Sports Centre. And like I said, the
home advantage.
You know what I would say? That Kestra team isn't going to be affected like other teams going into an away court with that amount of people. They'll be used to that. They'll be well trained in that. But then there's an away cup game, and then the very first home game of the season is Saturday the 30th of September. Now both these home games are at 6:30, and looking at the ticket sales, I would recommend people to arrive early if they want to guarantee a seat, though we will do our best to accommodate.
Yeah, we are going to start putting the links as well, as when the season starts, putting the links to the tickets for their games and the upcoming games if people want to go get them and stuff, because they are going
very quickly.
Yeah, and capacity is going to be an issue.
So well, Dan, thanks very much for, I mean, wow, what, I don't know if you look at it like the way we're looking at here, but what a basketball career you've had so far. And I just love, I didn't realise the statistical, analytical approach that you've had all that experience to, that you've brought to your coaching. And one of the things, did you want to do that? I'm just pointing something to Mark. So one of the things we've been bringing in every episode is we have this wide topic where we throw something at our guest and just see what they think. I don't know if you know. I don't know if I've mentioned this one to you, Mark. So we need a jingle for this as well, don't we? We need someone to make some jingles.
Yeah, I'll get on it.
Well, this wide topic, this could completely revolutionise the entertainment package that home supporters get.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if you've seen this, and definitely look on YouTube and you'll see an example of this. But what you're starting to get around the world now is the court itself. Imagine the court itself is a massive TV facing up. And so what happens, the floor is an actual image of a basketball court. So as the players are running up and down, it is literally a TV, but it's a basketball court. But what they can do is, as a basket goes in for the home team, you get this little explosion around the basket. And you got all this graphical analysis as someone's coming up, you'll have like some fire come in and all this. What are your thoughts on that? Is that good for the game? Bad for the game?
Oh my God, that's garbage.
Yeah.
Who wants that?
You know what? Look at the examples. It's not over the top. At the moment, you might get like a splash as the ball comes down by the ring when it goes in. You might get a bit of fire. You might get some statistical stuff come up as a player shooting free throws.
I want to look at the wood. I just want to see the hardwood. And you know what? You look at some of the teams. They have like 2 or 3 actual floors. and they have different parquet floors that they roll out, and that ties them with the kit. That ties them. I mean, I get all that. You can do more with digital. That's fine. But
you don't need parquet floors. You literally just go right, switch from Lakers to Clippers. Done. There it is. It's ready to roll. Look it on YouTube. Look it on YouTube.
I mean,
so
it
Mark
just sounds like the worst idea.
Mark isn't a fan. Dan,
No.
what are your thoughts?
Well, it's someone's going to put goldfish. someone's going to come up there and say, "Hey, you know what? At the halftime, let's make it look like a fish tank or something." And someone's going to do something, and then some idiot's going to think that's a cool idea. And before you know it, Orlando Magic, they're sponsored by Disney. Disney's going to be like, "Yeah, play the trailer for the latest thing there that everyone can see."
That sounds like great.
And it'll be like the biggest TV in the world. Yeah, advertisers are going to go nuts for it. That's why they want it. I get that, but does a player really want anything going on underneath their feet? No.
That's what I was gonna say. That I understand trying to increase the fan experience, increase advertising opportunities and whatnot, like use of technology, use of AI. But for me personally,
I'm just showing the video to Dan now.
for me personally, as long as it doesn't impact or affect the guy's concentration, then I think it'll be fine.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, well that was a poor version. But
Someone's been
there's
watching
another one
like
in
Tron for too long.
in an
and
actual
just
game.
Got excited.
I don't think we're too far away from that though, because out at Oxford, they have a floor that's kind of like that, where they can have it's like digital-ish, where they will have a basketball court and they can change something on the wall, and then changing something on the wall then takes away all the basketball lines and
nice.
turns it into badminton lines.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, there you go.
So we're not
Similar
that far
thing.
away from it.
Similar thing.
We're not that far away from it.
I mean,
I don't think
that
we
doesn't-
should help badminton players
Oh,
at
yeah,
all.
they do.
do we?
Let's not encourage that.
It's-
But I mean, yeah, that sounds much more plausible. You don't want stars following. Why do the basketball player want to look like Sonic the Hedgehog or something like that? I don't want that. I want to watch someone playing a game.
Well, so the more traditionalist says no.
Why not focus on like having better refs in the NBA? That might help.
Oh,
Wow.
shots fired.
Not shots fired. They suck.
potentially key.
Wow.
I mean, the refs last year, everyone complained about them. I mean, not just Mark Cuban. Everyone complained about them. They just were terrible.
I think refereeing is tough because even if you have the best game you think you've ever had, someone will find something to complain about.
I think the reffing this year for the Force was pretty good. I think there was no one really at any point you go, come on, what? That's not like you're giving too many calls one way or the other. I think it was really consistent.
Consistent
Yeah.
is the word you need, really, as a ref. Like, no ref turns up to a game and goes, I want someone to win. They don't care. They couldn't care less. They don't turn up to game thinking, I'm gonna have a bad job. It's just, it is very challenging being a ref, and you have to make a micro decision like that and go, that was a foul. And once you've missed it, you're talking half a second later, the play's gone. That's it. It's gone. It's very difficult.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
The same as if there's a foul. Sometimes it's like, is that flagrant? No, the guy like stumbled and tripped and knocked him over. It is what it is. It's in game.
It's a tough
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, move on.
So Dan, we've asked all our guests in the studio. We've got a basket. We've asked all our guests to take a shot on our basket.
Coach is not immune from this.
No, definitely not. So Dan, can you
wow.
take a shot for us? And there's 3 shots.
There is.
The third shot is known as the Stevie Ware bonus shot because he is the only person to score.
Yeah, he set the benchmark, so it's only fair we name it after him.
Yeah.
However, if you hit, say, 2, then
Well, we might have
it'll
to
become
rename
the Daniel.
the Daniel Fatomide shot.
It could
Bonus shot.
I don't see that happening, but let's see what
Let's see. Right, hang on. Right, we have Portsmouth Force head coach Daniel Fatomide. He is walking calmly over to the 20-foot line from the basket. He looks pretty focused. He's taken a few warm-up bounces. And here's his first shot. That's long. It was long. It's harder than it looks. His second shot is going up. And it's short. Oh, This is the Stevie Ware bonus shot. Third shot.
Oh no!
In and out. Was that in and out? Steve Ware remains the only person to score in the studio. It is hard. That is hard. I mean, I have done 2 in a row, but, you know.
Yeah. No one else saw that.
No, I did shoot like 28 before those 2, but so yeah. Well, thanks for shooting the shot, Dan. And we always finish the pod with Mark's questions.
These 2 crucial questions. I told you them before this time. I'm giving you a little heads up because I know it's going to be difficult for you. You can have anyone to take that game-winning, series-winning shot. It could be a 2 or a 3, inbound, in-game, whatever it is. Who would it be?
I'm actually glad you did give me this question beforehand, so it gave me time to think about it. But I would go Larry Bird.
Larry! That's the first time he's come up.
What's Larry shooting? What's the scenario?
The good thing with him is it actually doesn't matter.
So you're 1 point down, you just give it to Larry and go 3, 2, do whatever.
Figure it out. Because he's one of those guys where at the rim, mid-range, shooting threes, getting to the line, making the right play. Like, he is that guy. And he makes like big shot taker, big shot maker.
Wow. The hick from French Lick.
That's
the first one we've had of Larry.
Who's not Jordan. Everyone said Jordan so far.
Yeah, but that's like, oh yeah, Michael.
That's good. I think everyone sees the inbound, the shot, and the shot. Everyone sees that in their mind, and they're like, "That's the benchmark," because he's the benchmark for so many modern basketball.
Yeah, that is true.
Things. Arguably, it's why people call him the GOAT more than anything, because he is the benchmark for that in that blueprint. LeBron hits the stats. He's a great player, but he won't be Jordan because Jordan was the person who did it first.
Exactly.
It's tough. It's the trailblazer.
It is tough.
So, who's your starting 5 all time? You get one person on the bench, and because you're coach, Daniel, you got to choose the coach as well.
Well, didn't he already do a coach? Because you asked him who'd spend his season with.
Oh wow, you say that, but it depends on his 5 and the 6th. He might not choose the great Phil Jackson.
My all-time starting 5. So these aren't my top 5 players of all time.
No, not your top 5.
Starting 5.
Yeah,
Alive or dead?
it makes
NBA.
it a little bit more fruity, doesn't it?
So I would have Steph, Michael Jordan, and LeBron. Now, my 4 and 5 might be a little bit left field.
Do it.
My 5 is Hakeem the Dream. And now my 4. I'm pretty biased because he was like my first ever favorite player. But his intensity is through the roof. Mr. Kevin Garnett.
Oh, it's a good choice.
Mr. Kevin Garnett.
Mark loves that one.
Who's warming the pine? Who's number 6?
Oh, Kobe's just going to come off the bench and do a madness.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's going to be so annoyed the fact that he's coming off the bench. He's just going to shoot everything. And I'm okay with that.
And who's coaching?
I think the only person who could deal with all those personalities is Phil Jackson.
Staying with Jackson.
Staying with Phil.
Yeah. That's a bit of a, Phil Jackson's the easy one to choose. But with all of those guys, that is like Steph and Hakeem will be fine. But KG's a nutter.
Yeah.
And Kobe coming off a bench is wild.
No, I have MJ on the bench.
That's even wilder.
Can you imagine how angry he would be? Can you imagine being the person who's like, MJ's walking on the court, you're like, no, sit down. You're going to say that to MJ?
I could never.
And then imagine subbing him in. Imagine like the second he walks on that court, everyone would see him and be like, oh, our game's over, that's it.
He would be coming for blood.
Every point he'd be staring at it like, that's what you were missing earlier.
Mark, we've almost killed Dan's voice here.
This is fantastic.
He's going to be struggling to coach for the rest of the week. Well, Dan,
Very
You're
much
welcome.
so.
To all the Force players, you're welcome. He's going to be quiet. He's just going to glare and point at you.
Yeah, I got KP and Jesse. I'll be fine.
well, Dan, thanks very much for coming on the official Portsmouth Basketball podcast. And we wish you all the best of luck for the upcoming season. And we would love to have you back, maybe in the season, to get your analysis on that, and then at the end of the season, maybe to finish the pod. That'd be quite good, wouldn't it?
And we promise they'll be a lot shorter than this one.
This is getting the history. I think with a lot of these podcasts, you're getting all the history on someone. If they come back on, we've established that, so it's just the current stuff, isn't it?
I think, next time I need to bring a drum kit and let Dan have a little go on the drums,
Yes.
because we've heard some rumours
That would be very, very fun.
he likes tapping the pigskins, so we'll get him involved in that. Well, thank you everyone for listening, wherever you are and whenever you're listening. We really appreciate it. If you haven't listened to any other episodes, go back, have a listen. We're going to be hitting it up every single week. We've got some more people coming up soon, haven't we, Paul?
Yeah, we do. We got Rob Milner, chairman, coming up next.
Lovely. So stay tuned for that one. And thank you very much for now. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Speak to you all real soon.
Thank you very much for having me, man.